everybody, welcome. I'm Daniel G. Garza, and this is Put It Together Conversations. Welcome to the show. I want to welcome all of our friends on the 4 different pages of Facebook. Thank you for joining us. Remember, you can be part of the conversation. Make sure to share this on your page so that other people can watch it with you. If you're watching us on LinkedIn, you can also share this page and be part of the conversation. Our friends on Twitter, if you don't mind retweeting this and joining us for this next hour of talk. And our friends on YouTube, make sure that while you're commenting, go ahead and scroll down, hit that subscribe button, and like this video. That helps us a lot with numbers, and we really do appreciate it. I want to welcome y'all to the show. This week, I'm excited because I'm always excited. I know y'all have told me you're always excited about your guests. I am always excited about my guests because you know what? Because that's part of being a production. You handpick your guests. My guest today is with Joe's Brothers Coffee, and I found these guys on a lineup, and we'll talk about that in just a minute. Ordered the coffee, really enjoyed it, and I thought, let's bring him on the show. So let me bring Stephen on. Hello, Stephen. Welcome to the show.
Hello. Thank you for having me.
My pleasure, sir. I threw myself out of sequence. I got so excited about the coffee. I didn't read your bio before you came on. So let's pretend you're not on stage, and I'm going to read your bio for you quick.
Okay.
Stephen Prevost is the founder and roaster of Joe's Brothers Coffee, a craft coffee business based in Grand Rapids, Michigan. Stephen lives in Grand Rapids, Michigan with his partner. Pronounce their name for me.
Jai.
Okay, I was going to say it right. They recently celebrate their 9th year together and are finally engaged to be married later this year. They have 3 children. Stephen has worked in the printing and distribution business for the past 10 years and is currently an e-commerce website administrator and graphic designer for a leading B2B print distribution and promotional products company. About roasting, to roast his coffee, Stephen roasts exclusively on a fluid bed roaster, also called air roasting. It is unique in the industry and favored by many specialties in coffee roasting. And about Joe's Brothers Coffee, Joe's Brothers Coffee serves consumers and small businesses in West Michigan as a craft coffee roaster. He specializes in specialty grade single origin Arabica coffees. Although he loves single origin beans, he has 2 signature blends and also offers customer blends to customers upon request. And just in case you're curious, I have the Tanzania blend, which is dark, and I like it because it's ready for a drip machine, which is what I use. And before we go on, I mentioned this in the pre-production. I really like the fact that your copies have the roasted date on there, which I never. It's one of those things that you never knew you needed in a package until you see it, and you're like, why don't other companies do this? So anyway, welcome to the show, Stephen. Thank you for being here.
Thank you. Thank you. I'm really glad to be here, actually. I feel like I'm at a party on a weekend night. So
say that again.
I feel like I'm at a party on a weekend night.
And we're about to bombard you with questions, which actually some of the comments have already started. Congratulations. I'm assuming on your 9 years together. Coffee. Howard, hi, Coffee. We're listening.
Hi,
we
Howard.
have another coffee drinker, Estella. Hi, Estella.
Hi,
Welcome
Estella.
to the show. These are all regular friends of the show, so they're here
Good.
to greet you. But yes, congratulations on 9 years on the business. Yeah. Tell us first about the 9 years, because Christian and I are about to celebrate 9 years together. So
that's wonderful.
Tell me, how did you survive the lockdowns?
Actually, we did surprisingly well. That's why I guess I'm thrilled to have been together for so long, because we actually do mesh quite well, even though we're kind of opposite personalities, but opposites attract. I can't really say it. It just works. I know my place. He knows his. So, we know where our boundaries are. So
I think that's one thing we don't tell the younger generation, so the people who are young in their relationship, know your place. That's the yes. Christian and I are like that too. Yes.
Right. Don't be crossing the line now.
I love you, but I would also love to be in an episode of Snapped. So just put that in perspective.
Yeah, there you go. I'll keep my TV appearances to interview shows. Thank you. I don't really want to be on the news. I don't want to be on who killed who or whatever.
Buried in my backyard, which I am a big fan of. If you ever need any tips, let me know. I definitely got those for you. But welcome to the show. I feel like we have a lot to talk about, so we're going to just jump into it. And Stephen Prevost, tell us how you put it together.
Oh, goodness. Well, I guess since most of my identity in this part of my life is coffee, I will start there because I'm not really sure where else to go. But I got into the coffee business as a result of losing my brother Joe to ALS. And so I named my coffee business after my brother Joe. I was going to name it Joe Coffee, but that name was already taken. So since I'm Joe's brother, that's how we ended up with the name. So to back up a little farther, in what was it? It was in the late 90s, 95, 96. My dad was diagnosed with ALS, also called Lou Gehrig's disease, or MND, which is motor neuron disease. And then again in 2011, 2012, my brother Joe was also diagnosed with ALS. So and we lost Joe in the summer of 2012. So Joe and I were like really, really close. I mean, we're like super tight. And then when he died, I was like beside myself. I didn't know what to do. And so as part of trying to kind of like make sense of that and make something good come out of his loss, I started diving into what ALS was and what's going on and so on and so forth. And I thought, I got to do something. And then being that coffee was such a big part of Joe and I's relationship, I thought I would do something with that. And I spent a lot of time studying and researching coffee, and it took me a while to settle in on being a coffee roaster. I tried a few other things that didn't pan out, but so I ended up doing roasting, and now I've kind of lost my train of thought.
So your brother passed, and then you started getting into coffee. And was it therapeutic to do that?
Yeah, in a lot of ways, because when I talk to people about coffee, then I also get to talk about why I'm in coffee. And I'm in coffee because of my brother Joe. I lost him and my dad too. But my dad is a kind of a whole separate story. My dad and I weren't close. My parents divorced when I was itty bitty, and I mean, there's some good things that came out of that towards the end, but I don't know. It was just something different with Joe. It was just really different. So anyway, I found myself, here I am. I bought a roaster. I've got, all kinds of books, and I've have just been working at building up my brand and using that as a way to kind of spread awareness of ALS and provide people with some really good coffee at the same time.
Yeah, because there's some advocates watching the show right now. And in fact, Stella is an advocate for lupus. And
okay.
So, and I do advocacy for HIV and anal cancer, but what better way to, well, first of all, honor your brother, advocate for LAS, and talk about over coffee. Like, I mean, it's such a tradition. I mean, no matter what culture you come from, it's always late. Let's grab a cup of coffee. Let's go grab some coffee.
Right.
Right.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. It's an easy way to just have a conversation. I mean, I've got my coffee right here. It's after 8 o'clock at night, but here I am drinking coffee. So, yeah.
So tell me some of the, like, in the beginning, you're making a roast, those first conversations that you had about ALS, your brother. How were those conversations in the beginning? We can go on. We can move to something else if you like. We don't have to.
I don't know why I'm I'm kind of stuck in my head right now.
That's cool. So one of the questions on the board right now is, can you explain ALS a little bit for the folks that don't understand what it is?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Yeah, that's probably a good start.
Okay.
ALS is it is a motor neuron disease. It affects motor control. So any voluntary movement that your body makes, that whether it's conscious or unconscious, like me just talking with my hands like I always do, ALS destroys the nerves that send the signal from your brain to your muscles to allow your body to move. It starts in various ways. It's different for every person who gets it. There's no two cases alike, really. I mean, there are a lot of commonalities, but each person, because of your physiology, your family history, whatever, it's just different for everyone. So, like, for instance, with my dad, his was very different. He lost muscle tone and everything on one side of his body, his arms, or his arm, leg, and part of his face. So it almost looked like he had a stroke, but he didn't. And back in the 90s, it took a long time to be diagnosed for him. It was a 1.5 year long process just to get the diagnosis. And then, of course, when he did get the diagnosis, it was, they said, well, you might be 1 year, 2 years, 3 years. We don't really know. And for him, it ended up being about 1.5 years before he passed. So what happens is, as your muscles weaken, they atrophy. So you can't move. And what happens for most people is most of your body is like affected. And then the last part is like your lungs. So you can't breathe because that's technically a voluntary movement. You can, take a breath, let it out. Well, as those nerve cells get disconnected from your brain, your body can no longer breathe on its own. So most ALS patients end up suffocating. Now, a lot of people choose to use a ventilator to extend their life. Well, of course, at that point, then you can no longer speak because you've got a machine breathing for you 24 hours a day. But those, that's different for everybody. Now, with my brother Joe, he never had that chance to make those choices because he had, I don't know how many, a few months, he had like 6 or 8 months worth of like symptoms. And then he was like, he actually called me one day and he says, I'm going to be in town. We have to get together. I have to talk. So we get together and we're talking and he says, I think I have ALS. And I'm like, shut up. You don't know what you're talking about. And he's like, no, really, look at my arms. And he shows me both of his arms and one is like half the size of the other. And So, he's going on and on and on about his symptoms. And, I said, I mean, like, what are the odds of dad and you both having it? It's got to be astronomical, and he swore up and down, and, he was like, I believe I have ALS. And sure enough, I think that was in the fall of 2011. And then by the time he was able to get to a specialist and be diagnosed, it was January-ish 2012. Maybe it was a little bit later. Anyway, and then he was gone that August. It just went boom, 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 boom,
Wow.
boom. And, he wasn't a big person to start with. I mean, he's about my size. He weighed roughly, I mean, on a normal thing for him was about 145 pounds. By the time he passed, he was down to like 120 something. Because he's just, your muscles, like I said, they just atrophy. Because they're not getting movement or anything like that. And the disease just ravaged him. So, it didn't matter. It was like, you're pumping in all kinds of like protein drinks and trying to stay up, but it just ravaged him. So, so he didn't get the options like a lot of people do who, live a few years or, many years. Some people can live 10, 15, 20, 30 years with this disease, and other people, there's just no rhyme or reason. Like I said, it's different for everyone. Gotcha. So you never really know what you're getting into.
So for everybody watching, this is Put It Together Conversations. I'm your host, Daniel G. Goddess. My guest today is Stephen Prevost, and we're talking about coffee, ALS, and life, really.
Yeah.
So stick around and join the conversation. If you are interested in asking a question about roasting coffee or ALS, we are here to answer your questions. So at what point in this journey, like, what is the process? Because you explained to us, like, going into coffee, but we have some questions that somebody beat me to it. He said, thank you so much for sharing both your brothers and your story on ALS that he has, of course. And lupus is also like a snowflake. No two people are alike.
Mm-hmm.
Is it genetic? Is it something that you are concerned with, or?
Oddly enough, there's two sets of ALS. There's what they call familial, which is transferable from parent to child. It can skip generations, but your parents won't, but then you might, it still strikes kind of randomly. But then there's another one, there's another version of it that is basically, excuse me, it's called sporadic ALS, which just means anyone can get it. So there's still a lot of mystery around how it appears in people. I don't know the statistics. I'm not
right.
That's not my forte. But it strikes people randomly, or it can run in your family. Gotcha. There are families out there. There's actually, I think there was a family here in West Michigan. I think it was like one of their grandparents had it, their parents had it, their children had it, and and one of their, I mean, it was like it hit 4 generations, boom, 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 like right in a row, all in the same family. It typically there's a lot there's a lot
okay.
in my head right now. Sorry.
That's okay. If you want, we can switch over. We don't have to stay in this if it's hard for you. We do have some copy questions if that will help you with that.
Okay, I do want to finish this thought.
Okay, go ahead.
There's because it is kind of important. I mean, that's kind of like partly why I'm doing this, because ALS awareness. So I do kind of want to share what I do know, because there are quite a few people who still don't quite get it. Because ALS is technically a rare disease. There's roughly about 30,000 people in the United States who have it. I think it's roughly a quarter, maybe 200, between 200 250,000 people around the world who have it. So amongst diseases, it's considered very rare. There's no treatment to really, well, there is a treatment, but it's not really great. There are some medications that have helped people prolong their life approximately by a year or so. But it's not really effective for most patients. There's no cure, so there's that. And then also too, if you're like in the military, you have kind of a higher odd. There seems to be a higher rate of people in the military who have had ALS. And then typically it strikes people in their between, like, the average age is like 40 plus. But there, of course, are cases that have gone very young. There was actually the youngest person who was diagnosed with ALS was 7 years old. And she was actually right here from Michigan, West Michigan.
Wow.
Yeah. And oddly enough, too, Michigan has one of the highest rates in the country for ALS. There's roughly about 1,000 people here in the state that have the disease. So
Wow.
it's really strange. It's just really strange. When you start delving into the statistics and learning about the disease, it's crazy. A lot of it just doesn't make sense, and that's why I struggle talking about it, because just the way my brain works, when I start getting full of all this stuff, my head goes clouded, so which is, again, that's the benefit of coffee. Oh, you're welcome, Estella. Because I enjoy coffee, and it makes me feel good when I'm working with it, and of course I get to think of my brother too, which makes me feel good too, so that just helps me keep my smile on.
Yeah. And the audience is being very supportive, and like, they're trying to push you for your comfort level, so they want to know about the coffee too. And I think, because like I said, there's several folks that are watching right now that are advocates. A lot of us understands when you get into the conversation, like, hey, we're here for you, we got you. If you want to talk about something else, my go-to is always tacos. If I always get lost, it's go to tacos. Yes,
tacos are good too.
Tacos are good too. So yeah. There you go. She has fiber fog. I get things.
Yeah.
It happens.
Yeah.
So we do have a question on the board about coffee. So we're going to transition over to coffee now. So is it true that if you want the highest caffeine hit, you want to get the darkest roast possible? Well, I say dark, the darker the better, but that's just me.
Dark is good. I love dark coffee too. But actually, you would think it would be, simply because of the flavor, that dark, rich coffee. You would think, yeah, I'm getting a big punch of caffeine, but no. Actually, it is quite the opposite. The lighter the roast, the higher the caffeine content.
I have to remember that.
Yes.
So we have another question here. What's your favorite bean to roast? Ethiopian, Colombian, Zimbabwe? Wow, we're getting very exotic up in here.
Yeah, that's great. No, well, Colombia is one of my top favorites, simply because that was the first one that I roasted. It's from Nariño, which is the southwest part of Colombia, right down near the equator. Nariño is like in the very, very high mountainous areas of Colombia. And we can get into this a little bit later, but the higher the higher on the mountainside that the coffee grows, the more dense and the more sweet the bean. But it has just a really beautiful flavor. It's stellar. So there's Colombia is one of my favorites. It's like my all-time favorite. Another one I love is from Costa Rica. They have a really amazing coffee too. I mean, they're all really great. I mean, if you get some high quality coffee from just about any coffee growing area, you're definitely gonna just love it.
Got you. So the next question is, what does the type of roasting process you do look like, and what are the steps?
Oh gosh, I wish I had brought pictures. The so the by roasting type, I guess we're going to talk about my roaster. So there's two different types of roasting. There is what I do, which is called hot air roasting, or technically speaking, fluid bed roasting. And then there's traditional type of drum roasting. So a drum roaster is kind of like your clothing dryer. You know, it's just turning around in a drum like this and tossing around inside the drum. Hot air roasting is more of, say, like a blender. There's air coming up from the bottom of the chamber, and it's kind of turning the beans around in sort of like a tornado action. And of course, then they sit there in the air and just kind of float and turn around. And, you know, they're kind of tumbling around like that. But the air is coming up from the bottom of the roaster, and it's just pushing the beans around, and they're turning around. So in a drum roaster, you know, obviously you have hot air in there, but the beans are rolling around on a metal drum. So they're in constant contact with the metal.
Gotcha.
Where the fluid airbed roasting is, like I said, the air is kind of keeping the beans up floating around. So there's very, very little contact with the metal in the chamber. What that does is gives the beans a more even roast. So you don't have the hot spots, kind of like you would, say, on your meatloaf. I don't know, and you know, you get the crusty edge around the pan, you know, and then the meaty softness in the middle. The coffee bean is a lot like that. So on the less contact it's going to have with the metal, you're not going to get those hot spots on the bean, which is going to give the bean a nice even roast, so you don't get that bitterness. That we've talked about before with the in a dark roast coffee, you get that sharp, bitter flavor when you're drinking it. You don't get that with hot air roasted coffee 99% of the time. Gotcha.
So I don't know if you saw this quote, but that's from Hairspray, the musical. The darker the berry, the sweeter the juice. Throw that in there.
That's probably true, but it's not necessarily in coffee.
So the other question is, what's the greenish bean you've seen, or the greenest? What's the greenish bean you have seen? There we go.
The greenest bean I have seen. Well, they're pretty much all green when I get them. Not exactly. That's the first time I've had that question. I'm not really sure how to answer it, but let me think. I would probably say between the African beans, like say from Kenya, Tanzania, Ethiopia, those are pretty green, and then Colombia's are pretty green. When let's see, I've got a couple of Indonesian coffees from Bali. They're yeah, it's really good too. It's those are like blue. They actually have a bluish tint to them. It's kind of interesting, yeah. So we'll have to cover that one another time. Well, I'll have to take light measurements and see which one's more green, and I'll have to get back to her.
I'm definitely all about tell me about coffee. So for everybody watching, this is Putting Together Conversations. I'm your host, Daniel G. Garza. My guest today is Mr. Stuart Prevost, and we're talking coffee, the best dark or light. And just to specify, we're talking about the higher the bean, not you get high and then drink coffee, just to clarify the conversation. That's a whole different thing. It's like pastel green blue. Oh, she's asking for a specific green. Does that make sense to you?
Yeah. The Bali blue that I just mentioned, it's actually called Bali blue. because the in the raw state, the beans actually have that bluish tint to them. They're green, but they're, to the eye, they kind of actually do look a little in the blue tone.
Got it. And then somebody mentioned that the crack smells so nice. Yes, I grind my own coffee now, and oh my God, that just, I need a moment. I need a moment for that.
I feel you. I feel, because it's like, yeah, it's almost unexplainable.
And here's another question on the board. What is the weirdest custom blend you have made for a customer?
Actually haven't had any really weird blends. They're most people just want a nice, rich, dark coffee. I actually get a lot of requests for dark coffees, so it's kind of interesting. The flavoring or the flavors, I should say, we should kind of talk about this a little bit. The flavor notes that you might see on a specialty coffee bag that'll say like fruitness or, red berries or almonds. The roasters have a lot of different descriptors that they put on the bags. Those are flavor notes, or they might be aromas that you might get when you're freshly brewing the coffee. So people who aren't familiar with specialty coffee kind of look at that and go, this coffee tastes like strawberries? Why would I want that? Well, you may not want it, but some people do.
Some people do, yeah. Because this is the one that I ordered. The first one that I ordered was the, like I said earlier, the Tanzania blend. And it's a dark roast. And I really dug the flavor of it, especially because it didn't give me that typical acid burn that sometimes I get. Is there a bad blend of coffee? I would say no, personally, that all coffee is good coffee. But is there something that you're like, I just avoid that one?
Nope. That's partly what I try to get across to people as myself as a roaster. I call myself the unpretentious roaster because I want to give you the kind of coffee you want. If you like dark, bitter, and angry, I will give you dark, bitter, and angry.
They say that about me sometimes. So just to put that out there.
Yeah, nobody wants that in a relationship. But if that's what you like in your coffee, then you go right ahead.
That's right.
And it does. And the milk, yeah.
Does it? I never thought. I'm a black with just some sugar, but does it matter? Like, because nowadays you go and I guess like when I was younger, my parents would always like just milk in your coffee. Mm-hmm. But now you go to any coffee shop and there's a variety of milks.
Yeah.
Does it change the flavor of a coffee?
Oh, certainly. Yeah. Anytime you add anything to your coffee, you're definitely going to get a different flavor. It's going to change the whole dynamic of the cup. However, that's it's your cup. It's your, you got to get what you enjoy, right? Because it's what I like to call the coffee experience. Because good coffee should be an experience. So if you enjoy oat milk with your coffee, then by all means, knock yourself out. Personally, I think you're ruining it by putting it in. I mean, I think you should just drink it black and enjoy it for what it really is. It's God's creation. Let's just enjoy that, because that to me is where the real joy is. However, again, like I said, it's your coffee. Enjoy it the way you want. If you want to pour, half a cup of cream in there, go right ahead. As long as you're buying my coffee, you can drink it any way you want. So,
as they say, but South African blends.
South African. Oh,
and then Christian
gotta expand it a little bit.
Christian was agreeing with us that dark, bitter, and angry blend would be named after me. Thank you, hon, for your support. I'm so glad you're here to support the cause. I would love a coffee that is dark roast, but without the sour bite at the end or an aftertaste.
Then you should definitely search out an air roasted coffee by a local coffee roaster, wherever you happen to live. I mean, obviously, I'd like you to get online and buy my coffee, but if you got a coffee shop, yeah, there you go, Joe's Brother Coffee. Just head right on over there. I'll hook you up. And the nice thing too is, all the coffees that I offer on my website, with the exception of a couple, they're all offered in a light, medium, and a dark roast.
Yeah.
So you can choose whatever suits your fancy, or if you feel like switching it up and changing it, I'd like to try a light roast. I'm usually a dark roast person, but I can, try a light roast. And then of course, during the checkout too, you can always put in notes. Hey, can you do this, that, or the other thing, or whatever. So if you have a special idea, feel free to drop it there. If I can do it, I will. If I can't, I'll let you know.
That's pretty interesting. That I mean, I like to try like the chef's selection. Like whenever I go and order something, like just as is, like just let me just try it, see what it is. I really enjoyed this one. I need to go back online and order. And I was playing last night because I was trying to I was gonna order last night and then I didn't. But I knew I was gonna talk. I knew I was gonna talk to you today, so I'm like, I'm sure he'll throw some ideas out. So I'll wait till I talk to him. Here's another question: which one would you recommend from the selection to meet my aforementioned requirements? Ooh, big words there. That's a big word there, babe.
The dark, bitter, and angry.
The dark.
What's that? Should I do that one for you? Which would you recommend for the selection?
He's talking about
dark roast,
this
right?
one, dark roast without the sour bite at the end.
Yes. Actually, I would. Yes. Actually, my Wonderland blend definitely fits that category. It's a two origin blend that is definitely, it's not dark like black, charcoal. I roasted what I call the perfect darkness. It's just past medium, just entering dark. And it has kind of like a savory, sweet mouthfeel to it. And it's got a nice finish. It doesn't have that bitter aftertaste. It doesn't have the bitter bite when you first drink it. It's not like, it's just got a really good, rich, deep body to it. So it's really nice. Gotcha. Getting a lot of compliments on that one.
And Estella likes the fact that you have different types of roasting, and they get to learn and choose what they want. Yes, that is.
Absolutely.
I think Estella is already having a cup of coffee with us. So salute to you.
Hey, hi Estella.
Here's another good question, and I had this question in my head too. What is the best to buy, whole beans or pre-ground? Does it matter?
Absolutely, whole bean is your best option especially when you're in the specialty food or specialty coffee. Looking to get some nice, good quality coffee, you're always going to want whole bean because it retains the best flavor until, when you grind it just before you brew it, you're going to get that best experience out of it. A lot of people don't have grinders at home, which is really kind of a shame, but hey, if you got to have it ground, I'll grind it for you. However, I definitely recommend making the investment into a grinder for your home because you just won't regret it. I mean, I bought a grinder for my house probably 7 years ago for $100, and it still runs like new. So over the years, that $100 investment doesn't cost hardly anything. But you grind your coffee every day, and you're going to get the best flavor.
Yeah, and for those of you out there, I bought a grinder after checking your page out, but then I realized that it had the dripped option. I had already ordered my grinder. I'm like, I want a grinder, and I ordered one. But then I went on your site, and you had the drip, and I was like, oh well, I'll just order the already dripped. But now I'm gonna go try it. Amazon a coffee grinder. Yeah, totally. Totally.
Yeah.
And they're not that expensive anymore. You can get a
Right.
little individual grinder, very inexpensive. So
Yeah.
do yourself a favor and
Get yourself a grinder.
yeah.
Yeah. Let me do. Can I say one more thing about the grinding?
Yeah.
Before you go out and buy a grinder, do a little bit of research and do find a good quality one. However, I want to recommend you get a burr grinder, not a blade grinder. Blade, they're like, usually you got to push on them like this to grind the beans or whatever. I mean, the blade grinders are okay. Don't get me wrong. It's still better than buying pre-ground coffee, but you're going to get a better grind if you get a conical burr grinder. The particle size makes a big difference. With the burr grinder, you're going to get a more uniform size grind. So it's going to be more like a professional grind, right?
Well, now you tell me.
Yeah.
We'll have to have a talk after this.
Yeah. So with the blade grinder, they're kind of like all different sizes of the grinds. So you're not going to get an even extraction when you're brewing the coffee if you grind your coffee on a blade grinder. Blade grinders are great because they're cheap. They're like $20-$25 all day long. Everywhere you look, they're going to be really cheap. If you get a burr grinder, you're going to get a decent one. You're going to spend around $110. So it's a little bit beyond a lot of people's budgets. But like I was saying, they last you forever, and it's really worth the investment. So it hurts a little bit to get them up front, but you're definitely going to you're going to be glad you did.
I'll look into that one next. So, can you explain pour over coffee?
Sure, a little bit. I'm not a professional coffee brewer by any means. I'm not a barista. However, yes, the pour over is a technique of brewing. There are quite a few variations of the brewing devices out there, but essentially you have kind of a cone shape. We've all seen probably the cone shape filters. The popular one is the V60 by Hario. I can't remember how you pronounce it, but essentially, yes, you're gonna grind your coffee and you put it in the. Oh my gosh, I can't believe this. And you just brew with a kettle, and so you just do this circular motion like this, and you saturate the grounds, and of course it goes directly into your cup. It's very manual. It's very particular. That's why I don't use it personally, because I've just never been able to make my perfect cup with it. I have what's called a clever dripper. It is essentially kind of works the same way. It's the cone shaped filter, but it has like this mechanism on the bottom where it's got a plug in it, so you can saturate the grounds with your kettle, your hot water, and then you put a lid on it and you let it steep for probably 3 to 4 minutes, kind of like you would with a French press. However, the difference is when you set it on top of your cup, then the mechanism allows the coffee to drain out the bottom, and I don't know, it just makes a great cup, and I really like it. Yeah. And you don't have to be like super scientific about how you're pouring it, and if you have the right exact grounds and that kind of stuff. So I apologize if that's not a very good answer to your question. But, I'm just that's why I've got Desmond. He's the amazing brewer person. So.
Gotcha. So for everybody watching, this is Putting Together Conversations. I'm your host, Daniel G. Garza. We're talking to Master Roaster, Mr. Stephen Prevost, talking about the perfect grind, the perfect coffee, and how it just brings people together. Obviously, it's brought a lot of people into the conversation today, which is really awesome.
That's great.
It just goes to show that even virtually, a cup of coffee will bring people together.
Yes, I think that's great, and that's why I love this business, because, well, I get to talk to all kinds of different people, and I love that interaction that I get from it, and it's fun to share. I mean, I don't know how many packs of coffee I actually give away, because I'm just like, here, I want you to try this. I want have you?
Oh, to live in Michigan. Oh,
Yes.
Stephen. So about this time is when we usually ask our guest to share some words of wisdom with our audience. So, Stephen Prevost, what words of wisdom would you like to share?
Ooh, what do you want? Life wisdom, or do you want coffee wisdom?
It's your episode. What's as we're all sitting here holding to a cup of coffee, and we're like, Stephen, share your wisdom on me.
Okay, here. Let's see. Here's my wisdom. Drink coffee every single day, no matter what, and drink as much as you can possibly take. Because if you really want to improve your life, it doesn't really cost that much. Everybody wants to live their best life, right? Oh, I want to travel the world. I want to, do this, that, or the other thing. That's all fine and good if your budget can handle it. But if it can't, you can live your best life just by buying better coffee, whether it's from myself or from your neighborhood coffee roaster, if you have one. And then sit down and talk with your family and your friends. I'm not exactly a fan of bulletproof coffee, but hey, knock yourself out. If you love it, by all means.
I think that's one of the cool things about the coffee market right now, is that there's so many to choose from. There's so many combinations and flavors that if you don't like one, keep moving and try another one. And because talking about coffee, my mom passed away last year, and they called us from Texas at about 3:30 in the morning, California time, to let us know. And I was at Christian's house, and he's like, what do you want to do? And we weren't going to fly to Texas. This was right in the middle of the pandemic, and there was not an option to fly there. And so we woke up at 3:30 in the morning, and my mom was an avid coffee drinker up until her last day. She drank coffee, and it was 3:30 in the morning, and I'm like, let's make some coffee. And we got up. We each had a cup of coffee. We lit a candle for her. I said some prayers. And we finished our coffee, and Christian's like, what do you want to do now? I'm like, let's go back to bed. I'm like, that was the best way I felt I could honor her at that moment, was I don't drink. Otherwise I would have said, let's get some tequila. But it was like, let's have a cup of coffee in her honor. Yeah. And some of the best, I'll be 50 now, and in rehab, coffee brought the brothers at rehab together. It would be 2:00 in the morning and somebody couldn't sleep, and you're like, I'll make some coffee, and we would sit up and talk. And so if you're not a coffee drinker, that's cool, drink tea.
Sure.
But just the term of let's make coffee, it's just like,
there's just something about it. It's probably just because we were all raised with it, I guess. But there's just something about two people or a group of people, friends, family, whatever, sitting around a table, drinking coffee, just talking. It's, I don't know. Yeah, it just brings people together. And kind of to touch back a little bit on what I was saying, you can travel the world through coffee. You can,
there you go.
You can really explore our world through coffee, which is really great because it's grown in so many different parts of the world, and people's stories are so interesting. It's like each little origin of coffee is kind of like reading a novel. You can learn about the country, you can learn about even the certain villages that grow coffee. So it's a great way to explore the world.
So if I came to your house and I said, Steven, make me coffee your way. What would that be? What bean? What's in it?
Well, I used to be, just a one bean coffee guy, which was Colombian, but since I've begun roasting, it's about 5-6 years ago, I've never had the same coffee in my house all the time. It's always something different. So you could come to my house one day every week, and I'd probably have 7 different coffees
Nice.
throughout that week. It's one of the advantages of being a roaster. I can I can switch it up all the time. So yeah. However, and if there are any coffee roasters out there watching this, they're probably going to like do one of these, towards me. But I just, I have an automatic drip coffee maker, makes 12 cups. Because I consume coffee like it's going to be my last day on earth. It's just, I'm drinking it all day long. So I make massive amounts of it. But if I do have a really particular special coffee that's unique that I haven't had before or something like that, then yes, I break out my Clever Dripper and I do my best pour that I can, measure out the beans down to the gram and all that kind of stuff, just because I want to taste every little aspect of the coffee before I make a big giant batch. Gotcha.
Now I do want to call out that we're both wearing coffee shirts today.
Yeah.
That is, what is that symbol for?
This is the caffeine molecule.
There you go.
So you've got your hydrogen, all the good stuff that makes caffeine. And yes, I love your shirt too.
I love coffee. This is what I love. And I had to go in my closet and dig for it. I'm like, I know I have a coffee shirt in there somewhere. And usually this is reserved for Sundays, like lounging. But I'm like, you know what? It's Saturday night. I don't care. For Steven. This is for Steven. I have to say though, I'm going to say this because Steven was a little nervous before we started the show about. I'm going to quote you on this. He's like, I don't want to sound like a moron. You did not sound like a moron, sir.
I was really nervous about this. I really. I don't know. I feel like I'm on stage, and I remember when I had this like traumatic memory from when I was in like 3rd grade, and we had to do like the Christmas thing for all the parents, on stage, and they had this little show at school, but it was just, it was a nightmare.
So would this wouldn't be the right time to go dance for me, Steven? Dance for me.
No, I can't. I can't dance. Don't do that.
Come on, coffee boy, do something for me.
I need to start shooting at my feet.
If you don't have a t-shirt for it, then that's a problem. Yes, Piper.
Yes.
Piper knows that I have a t-shirt for every episode. This is why I love t-shirts. If you have a t-shirt at home, send it. I will wear it. I wear a medium, so let me know.
I will send you a Joe's Brother coffee shirt.
Yes, I will wear it. What do you think of single serve cake cups? Good or not?
I love this question. Thank you so much, actually, for asking it. Because I used to be 100% against them. I wouldn't touch them. And if I went to your house and you had a K-cup machine and you offered me coffee, I would say no, thank you. However, that was a long time ago. The K-cups have come a long way. There are many manufacturers now who are offering a wide variety of materials for the actual cups. Still a long way to go, however, but there are compostable versions, because that's really the horrible thing about K-cups is because of the plastic and there's a bazillion of them and they're just all over the place, and they're landfills and they're on the ground and all kinds of garbage. There's a bunch now coming out that are compostable. However, I still don't think people are actually composting them. I think most of them are going in the trash. But I recently started offering K-Cups of my own. I found a company, it's called iFill. They make one that's 100% recyclable. The lid, the filter, the cup itself, every component of the cup is made of recyclable plastic. It's kind of the same kind of plastic that you have like maybe in your butter tub or a lot of foods that, we buy from the grocery store. They're fully recyclable. There's no foil, there's no paper, there's none of that. So you don't have to, you can actually like pop it open. I should have had a demo version here, but you can, once you're done brewing it, you can actually pop it open, dump the grounds in your compost or your trash, I guess, and then just rinse it out. And then the whole cup and everything goes right in the recycling. So so that's, that's really the only reason I now offer the K-Cups. And it's also because of there's a lot of reasons, but there's, the cost is more effective for me because I'm a micro roaster. I don't roast high volumes of coffee. I'm not doing hundreds and hundreds of pounds a week or anything like that. It's very small scale. So the iFill brand actually is cost effective for me. I can buy it on the scale that I need. And I'm also working with this local company, which I totally am in love with. It's called Perfect Circle Recycling. They're a really unique company because they can actually take my whole entire K-Cup, coffee and all. So like if I don't even have to empty the K-Cup and throw it, in its own bin. I can take all my coffee, K-Cups with the coffee inside, give them to them. They have this really cool machine that they throw it in and it separates the coffee from the plastic, and the plastic goes one way and the coffee goes another way, and they send the plastic off to recycling, and then they send the coffee and all the other biomaterials to compost digester thingamajig. So none of it goes into the to the landfills. Wow. So yeah,
that's pretty cool.
And that just started up. So I'm going to be putting more of that information up on my website and then my Facebook and all that good stuff.
Espresso does something similar. Oh, okay, cool.
Yeah.
Now here's one question before I let you go. We're down to the last 3 minutes, but there's something that nobody asked us. I can't believe nobody asked this. I was expecting better from you, audience.
Yeah.
where is the best place to store your coffee?
The best place to store your coffee is not in the refrigerator or freezer. It is on the counter or in the cupboard.
Gotcha.
Yeah. If you want to show that bag that you got there, mine, the bags you get from me have a zipper, and you'll also notice too that there's a little valve in there. So you can zip lock it closed and keep it right in that bag, in your counter, in your cupboard, out of sunlight, at room temperature.
Gotcha. Like a vampire, keep it just right there out of the sunlight.
Yes.
He's laughing. Great interview. Thank you, Howard. Thank you.
Thank you, Howard. I appreciate that.
Anything else before we go, Stephen?
Did we talk about roast date?
I mentioned it in the beginning.
Oh, okay.
That your bags have a roast date on the package.
Yeah. For anyone who's not familiar with the roast date, always look for that. If you want a really high quality coffee, it's going to have the roast date on it. So whether it's for me or anyone else, that if it doesn't have a roast date on it, don't buy it. Stay away from any coffees that say best buy X date, because chances are that coffee is going to be 6 months or a year old or maybe longer. That's why you should always buy from a specialty coffee roaster. And if you don't see that information on their website, go ahead and email them and say, hey, do you guys tell me, when you roast your coffee, or, so that kind of thing. Most specialty coffee roasters do that, but commercial coffee roasters do not. There's always like a best buy date. Chances are, that stuff has been roasted way too long ago, and definitely don't buy pre-ground.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much, Stephen. Thank you so much for coming on the show. I so appreciate you. This
Thank
was
you so much for having me.
we did such a spectrum of conversations that I think the audience walked away with knowing a little bit more about ALS and some more about coffee, and I totally appreciate you. For again, folks, if you are interested, check it out, Joe's Brothers Coffee. I'm not only interviewing him, but I'm also a shopper. I'm a client, so I guarantee it. You will like it. And but the only one that I can try right now is the Tanzania, and Stephen and I are talking about trying some of the blends. So I'll let you guys know once I try those. Stephen, don't go away. I'm going to put you in the green room for just a second. I'll be right back for you. For everybody else watching, thank you so much for watching the show today. Thank you for all your questions. Remember that put together Little Mexican Productions. We have several shows on the air, so check us out. Wednesdays, Christian and Daniel's show. On Fridays, the Cardivo, and on Saturdays, 2 shows put together conversations at 12 and 5 p.m. So make sure you check us out on all 4 different channels: Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, and LinkedIn. So go check us out with that. I want to thank everybody who's part of this production. Also, one more thing before I go, because I want to make sure that you guys check it out. My book is out. Go check out my book. It's at all the major outlets. So Grumpy Bunny and the Colors Games and any of these fine establishments, go order your copy now. For now, I want to thank all of you for joining us. My name is Daniel G. Garza. This is Put It Together. And hey, put it together. We'll see you next time. Thank you, folks.